Hello, I'm Chris, and today we're going to be teaching you the 25+2 castle drop into unique unit. This is more specifically for civs with wood and gold unique units. If you want a food unique unit, then you should probably aim for the 26+2. There's a guide for this already on the channel. Today we're going to be using Portuguese, which is a generic civ, to show you it can be done with any civ. I'll put the build order on screen now. As you can see, this is one of our old fun builds, where we have berries before a lumbercamp. This does let you take food in a more efficient manner. You take the slower food early on, and it tends to work out a little bit better. This is something that was worked on back in the day. Melkor, Finor, me, on Vibli when we do a lot of test builds. And this is one that I sort of started using. I just put the ideas together, and it seems to have always worked very, very well. This is great for civs like Burmese, where you want to go for the iron bite and you have an eco bonus. But without one, it's still perfectly fine. For example, the organ gun is still an extremely strong unique unit. You can follow this up with anything at all. You can boom, you could 1 TC go forward with Seed Workshop Monastery, or you could go to Imperial Age. It depends on civs and what you want to do. So, we are starting with pretty basic resources here. We have the minimum you can start with, which is 8 sheep instead of any cows being involved, and 3 deer. I haven't actually checked this map. If we have 4, then we're just going to ignore 1 deer. And obviously you've got the 2 boars. Just a quick reminder that there's a new AoE2 Arena Discord channel. Follow the link in the description, go to the Discord, go to the set role channel and pick AoE2. There are other roles you could pick if you're interested in those other games or topics, but that's the new place where we hang out. So, let's jump right into the build. Let's start it as we usually would. As per usual, it's 2 villagers, they build 1 house. Second villager, the third villager, he builds a second house, and we queue our TC. So let's start. Go and get your sheep. Your first 4 sheep are most important. You just need to get 1 under your TC. And we could use those to sheep scout. There is some of my other sheep. And that's us discovered our 8 sheep. This might take you a little bit longer, but what I would advise is look for your deers most importantly. So unless your sheep are very easy to grab and you can use those to sheep scout, then don't worry too much about them. As long as you have your first 4, you're fine. And we have 4 deer, so we're going to be ignoring 1. We're only going to take 3. So something I should probably discuss is every player takes deer at different times. As you can see, I want to take 1 sheep and then move straight onto deer. I find this to be most efficient because you're taking your deer with 6 villagers directly. This means you have the least amount of rot possible. You save your sheep for later, you don't have sheep at the same time, or you don't have a boar at the same time. You're taking just the deer, less animals rotting at the same time, and you're taking with more villagers than you usually would. So I find it's more efficient to take the deer this way. I also just find it easier. You kill the 3 deer, then you could go and scout by minute 3 perhaps. So, usual 6 on sheep. Although that's going to transform into taking a deer as well. Whoops, misclicked. So 6 sheep, and technically they're now on deer. Let's delete some of our back walls. This is where the build order gets a bit funky. We're going to build a house, and then we're going to send that villager to a straggler. Some of the old builds we used to do back in the day, with berries first, usually didn't involve this villager. However, you still get almost the full benefit of berries before lumbercamp by building this house and putting it into a straggler. So we're pushing our second deer here. It depends on how far your deer are, but sometimes you might want to just push them basically instantly. You push the deer in, go and grab the next one, and just stay on that. Sometimes you can afford to wait a little bit of time. Here we have a bit of extra time because the deer are quite close and not many obstacles. So right now we're going for 4 on berries. It's fine to kill your deer slightly early, have 1 laying there dead. That's fine. So just for the purposes of this guide, I'm going to be going on auto scout, and we are ignoring the 4th deer. We're going to pretend you have 3. So very soon we are going to run into a very slight problem, and that is that a villager is supposed to go and get a boar. The thing is, it's going to be quite late. If we wait until the next village is created, we'll almost be done the deer. So, depends on your builder. Again, people do this differently. Instead of the next villager going to get the boar, we just put him on the deer. We send a villager now from the deer to go and get the boar. As I may have mentioned, this builder is quite advanced, and it's mainly because of small things like this. You have to be on the ball when it comes to villager efficiency and moving villagers around. It's not as straightforward as just reading the builder. So let's shift queue our villagers while we have a bit of time on the berries. Make sure they take that efficiently. And the next villagers go to Stragglers. So after the villager on the boar, we then send 2 more to Stragglers for 3 in total. We should have 7 on the boar at this point, and 4 on the berries. I'm going to be auto-scouting just because when I'm making a guide talking at the same time explaining things, it does take up a bit of my attention, and I'd rather just put on auto-scout for the purposes of being accurate in what I'm saying. After the 2 more on Stragglers for 3 in total, we're sending a villager to go build 2 houses. After that, she will then go to where our lumbercamp will be. And any villager after that will do the same. Don't forget to go and take your next boar when this boar is low on food. We don't have too many villagers, so you can actually wait till it's quite low, 140 food, 120 food on the boar before sending a villager to go and get the next. So we want 100 wood to build our lumber camp. This is something I just intuitively do after a lot of practice. So I paused a little bit late here to discuss it, but as soon as these villagers drop off enough resources, send them to where the lumber camp will be. For example, I can send him, I only need 100 wood, he's got 10, oh she's got 10, drop off the wood, send her there. When there's 5 between these villagers, I send them. So when I have 100 wood, I don't want to take more from the stragglers. It's fine to for a little while until you notice, but that's something you want to be aware of. So just send her, garrison a TC, more than 5 wood there. Just want to build a lumber camp. The next 2 villagers go to food. I like to send a 5th one to berries now rather than move some later. And the 5th one on berries, you don't need to shift queue him on the berries at all. You can just let him free float. So let's make sure our villagers on the wood line are taking it reasonably efficiently. And the next one will go to the TC food. So when we've got 6 on wood, you should be 18 pop, and then 2 more to your TC food. Or 2 more to food rather, and I like to send 1 to berries now. Next we want to do 3 to stone and 2 to gold. This build order is one of those efficient ones where you actually take stone properly, rather than one of those where you send 100 villagers after clicking up the castle age to go and mine stone. We will not build any Dark Age farms with this build. I like to be efficient with my mining camps. We're not going to have too many villagers, so it doesn't really matter too much. We're going to have 2 on a instant corner and 1 tile away for the rest. Now villagers under the TC can be a bit finicky. We have 8 here. That 9 is including that sheep. And sometimes 8 can fit, sometimes they just refuse to. So I like to just make sure shift queue them to the next sheep and also keep 1 under the an extra, just in case this one fills up. 7 villagers only fit around it, 1 goes to kill another sheep. Last 2 for the builder go to gold. This is pretty standard for most FCs. You'll notice our economy is looking pretty standard. Nothing special about it at this point, except we have very little berries here and we have a lot of food in the bank. For example, we're clicking up at 25 pop, and we have, 3 villagers on stone. That's taken away from a normal FC, and we still have 200 food in the bank. So this is where we're going to get a lot of our food. I like to keep my sheep a little bit further away just in case they do decide to splatter it. As an example, this is a sheep that you can fit 9 villagers around. Sometimes you can only get 8. We'll queue up our villagers now. So while we have time, we might want to decide where we're going to build our upbuildings. Preferably, you usually want to keep the villagers on wood if they're on wood, and not use these to build it. You can do if you want to though, and it's perfectly fine. You might have to rejig your eco a bit. You might have slightly too little wood when you up. For example, you might have a farm that's a little bit late and you might have problems with food. Here's an example of me not doing what I'm saying and having a villager not able. Preferably you want to take them TC food, if possible. Again, this isn't a general arena guide, but something you still always want to do is wall towards your TC. For example, we have these two houses here. A market or blacksmith there would be nice. And maybe connect across here if we can. It's a bit of a stretch, but if we could fill in some of it with some buildings, then if we need to fill it in later, it's going to be much easier. So what I'm thinking here is I take our spare villager off berries because he's nearby to build the blacksmith here, and I'll build the market here. Why would I build the market here? Because we're going to have a castle. If you're going for a castle drop, you build it at home, you do not build it forward. Pretty simple economics there. Please don't get into that debate. And I usually like to build it closer to my TC. It's a couple extra tiles for each unit to walk, well, a few. But if I build it here, it's still in range of my TC, guarantees it's protected, as well as covering most of the ground. So I only need to wall in slightly from both sides, and it's pretty protected. I have very little area to actually worry about. So I want to build my market here, it'll be under the castle, it'll be protected. So let's grab this villager here and send him to go build that blacksmith, or the area where we're going to build it. We're not feudal yet. And we'll grab a couple of villagers here to send them forward to build the market here. I usually prefer to build the market, it builds very, very slightly slower. These two villagers will go to stone. Now something additional I need to explain is that you may run into this issue where your stone is very far behind where you want to build your castle. So adding a 6th villager to stone after you click up the castle age can be really, really nice in terms of actually making that work and being able to build it in time. So we can click up, we just need to drop off food from our villagers because they're holding it, greedy villagers. We're going to send a 6th one here because our stone is very far from where we want to actually build our castle. And we want to build a lumbercamp with the berry villagers when they're done. A living on wood is what we're really looking for. And yeah, it's nothing too complicated about that. So we're going to get Horse Collar as soon as we can and then just lay down the farms. I know it's a little bit late to get the wood upgrade, but it's better we drop as many farms as we do when we have Horse Collar because we're going to basically drop them as we can afford them. Just got to keep making sure our villagers are working more efficiently. To be more specific, this build, as we have it now, the wood and gold distribution numbers we're going to be heading for can be very different. I'm going to send 2 to gold now. We're going for organs. However, you could have cheaper or more expensive unique units. If you're Burmese, you'll need less on wood, for example. You don't have as big of problems. So let's get these villagers up and working. Spread them out just a little bit so they don't keep clumping together. And we want to add our farms as much as possible. We need to have 6 farmers just to make sure we can run our TCs. So when we have 650 stone, send our villagers where we need them to go, just for the right timing. And we have 2 villagers queued up. We can cancel that because we need to actually get double bid axe. Again, I forget upgrades all the time. It's a common occurrence. Really should have taken out the Straggler, but yeah, we have time. Let's do it. And our first villager is going to build a farm. Now, realistically, we only need 8 on gold here. So, we'll send the rest to just build as we go. Build farms. Again, I'm not going to carry you through the entire Castle's build order, I'm just going to get you started. And then you have many, many choices from that point onwards. And I'll explain them as we go. But as soon as we hit 6 farmers, our TC will reliably keep itself running. We can get ourselves 8 very quickly. And yeah. So I'm going to send 4 of these villagers because that's what we need to run our TCs, run our castle making organs. Also make sure you don't get yourselves housed. We're a little bit late on the castle there, that's fine. Nothing too abnormal. Let's queue up our organs, we're going to make a house. Just as a late panic house, so to say. And other farms. I would strongly recommend getting yourself maybe about 12 farmers. If you could get yourself 12 farmers, then you're going to be in a generally good position. And that will let you get your eco upgrades and whatnot. So something you may want to do is to make 2 of your unique units. If they're very heavy like this, if your Turk's doing this build, buying food, whatever, do a similar build, but if you have heavy units, only make 2 or 3 before going forward. Don't sit and mass 10 units in your base. I like to add a petard, just for the sake of adding a petard. It just makes getting through the gate so much quicker when you're using units like this. Although again, for a lot of builds I still recommend 26+2. So here we can see the gold, we're going to harass that, we're going to try break in that main gate. And we have enough farmers that I'm content. So, the build is basically over. What do we do at this point? Well, this is entirely up to you. There are 8 on gold, we're building up some gold. We have 11 on wood, we're building up some wood. And we have 12 on food, 13 soon, we're building up food. We can do pretty much anything we want. You can do a couple of things to boom. At this point we could add a couple to stone and add TCs when we could afford them. Or right now, if we wanted to, we could even buy 100 stone. And we could buy some wood. We could just add some more villagers to gold. We could build a TC on the gold with those extra villagers, so we still keep 8 on gold even when building the TC. And you could add a second TC. You could then use that to build a third TC later. You can go to stone now, get another TC, but either way you can boom. And you can have a really good eco. For example, we have 13 farmers. Right now that will build us up a lot of food before we could even get a second TC running. And obviously we're going to be getting the bow saw upgrade, the castellated wood upgrade. So you could boom. We can also add some more to gold. For example, just set our TC rally point on gold. Every second villager will add a farm, and everyone in between will just go to gold. We can get wheelbarrows soon, when about maybe like 6 or 8 villagers. And then we could go to Imperial Age with 1 TC. Portuguese, for example, they also have the option of going to stone after that or buying some stone and adding Feitorias for a 1 TC eco. They can add trebs at that point or do whatever. And just do organ treb, maybe add a monster at that point, whatever. A usual way I would suggest this is I did a video on the Turks 26+2, that will also be linked in the description. That will show you how you could really effectively 1 TC push from a position of just hitting Castle Age. Basically, you could do a lot of things, but forward Monastery, forward Siege Workshop, you push with your unique unit, Siege, Monks, it's very difficult to stop that combination. And also, a very important thing when you're doing something like this is you have map control. In a 1v1, that means you could go pick up relics. In a TG, at least a relic's close to you. On the same note, in TGs, I would particularly recommend a boom approach. You can add a monastery, and then boom is probably what I would most likely expect the player to be doing. The reason for this is in team games, it's very difficult to have a player continuing to do a 1TC economy late into the game. For example, in a 1v1, you can do the damage that is worth it to still be 1TC and have 70 villagers minute 30. Or even less in some cases, depends on what happens. And that could still be worth it, but in a team game, the enemy pocket will still have a fully boomed economy, 140 villagers at that point. And you'll have a very difficult time beating it, or at least assisting your ally with your very weak economy. The enemy pocket can quite incidentally wipe you out, whereas yours can do the same to theirs. So if you have an economy, and by minute 30 you're 100 villagers, then you're not too far from the point where you could just start Iron Barracks and start going hubs, so you can click up. You're very late compared to someone just straight booming doing it, but you have army, you've killed a player, and it's really just assisting your pocket at that point, so I would strongly recommend a more boomy approach if you're doing this in team games. But if you do this right, you're going to be very, very effective. There's plenty of civs you can do it with. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please like, comment and subscribe. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments after checking the description. I will add any questions and answers to the description as we go by over time. So hopefully that answers all of your questions. Don't forget about the AoE2 Arena Discord. It is under our current new name, and that is also linked in the description. Thank you for watching this video, and enjoy winning some games in AoE2.